Hey friends, Rao here with Watch This Instead for Saturday, June 4th. Now normally we have these things out on Fridays, and I apologize for the delay, but we've had a really crazy week here at thesubstream.com. We shot a whole whack of film lab footage that you're gonna see towards the end of the month, and that's thanks to our friends at White's Interactive. We have a new site rolling out. It's just around the corner. I can hardly wait for you guys to see this thing. It's gonna be amazing. And what I'm most excited about, of course, if you haven't seen it already, then you should check out the great superhero film debate of 2011, which we shot earlier this week with our friends from Mamo and Row3.com and Final Girl Project. It's just a lot of fun to watch people argue about superheroes. It's especially fitting that we did it this week because we are still in the early stages of a summer that's catering to comic book superhero movie fans. We've got Thor, which was great. We got Green Lantern coming up, Captain America coming up, and last night I got to see X-Men First Class. I watched it with a bunch of people, regular folks like you and me, at the Queensway Cineplex on a Friday night. It was kind of interesting to see a film that way, because usually we get to see movies ahead of time, to some degree anyway. At any rate, X-Men First Class is mostly great. It's a lot of fun to watch. Matthew Vaughn, the director, who also did Kick-Ass, did a pretty great job. Seems like he knows what he's doing when directing superhero action scenes. Special effects were really cool, and the story was interesting. It takes place in the early 60s against the backdrop of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which, as it turns out, was engineered by Sebastian Shaw of the evil Hellfire Club, and they're a bunch of mutants that are trying to take over the world. Sebastian Shaw is played by Kevin Bacon, and it's just awesome to see him on screen again, playing a smarmy dick villain, which is something he's so good at. The Hellfire Club are of course challenged by a young Professor X, played by James McAvoy, who's great in the role, and a young Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender, who's also great in his role. Without these two guys, this film I would not have enjoyed, I gotta admit it. They really did carry the thing. Watching their chemistry on screen, even though occasionally bordering on contrived, really kind of does work to take the story to where it needs to go. So yeah, I did enjoy it, and you probably will too. So if you decide to go see it this weekend, you won't be disappointed. But there's some things that I had huge problems with. For one thing, they cast a robot to play the part of Emma Frost, the White Queen. You know, being an attractive blonde with big boobs does not make you a good actress, as it turns out. But the thing that kind of irked me the most was the fact that they didn't push the whole 1960s aesthetic nearly far enough. This is an X-Men film set in the 60s, released in 2011, which is pretty crazy. And yet it's 4 years after a show like Mad Men that's seen great critical success and also happened to absolutely nail the 60s aesthetic through its production design, which those guys deserve, even though it's a TV show, they deserve a million Oscars. You know, watching an episode of Mad Men, it's as if you're watching footage that was actually captured in the 60s. It's that good. And X-Men First Class, it just wasn't there. We're ready for it. Like, I don't know, it felt like they were scared to go too over the top. As a result, some of the hairstyles just don't work. The color palette is all over the place. As the worst offense, there's a montage where Professor X and Magneto travel around looking for other mutants to recruit, and the music they play during that montage is the most fake sounding 60s twang guitar music you can imagine. Really disappointing. Overall, the movie's a lot of fun, and you probably should go and see it, especially if you're interested in the source material at all. But if you think that stuff's gonna bug you more than it bugged me, then what you should do is stay home and watch any number of period TV shows or films that absolutely nail the time period that they're set in. As I mentioned, Mad Men does it really well. If you haven't seen it, beautiful, beautiful looking show. So do it.